Hi, everybody. You'll notice that I've got my expert Laura with Sqweee. My name is Sherry Gauthier. Welcome, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. So, Laura, welcome. How about you give us a little overview of what our audience might be excited to hear about today?
Awesome. Thanks for joining us, everyone. So we are talking today all about follow-up. So we're going to be diving into first of all, some strategies for preparing for follow-up. And I'll go through kind of a couple of the tools that I use in Sqweee and how you can use those to work on follow-up. And then after all that, of course, I'll take any questions that you have, and then I'm going to share that exclusive Norwix sneak peek at some of the features that we have coming up that are also going to play into follow-up. So I'll just kind of touch on those briefly and show you a little bit. So that's what we're going to be doing today. So one of the things that I hear with Sqweee, especially if you're used to working on Facebook parties, is people get a little bit flustered by, wait a minute, how do I follow up with people? And so we want to make sure that you are prepared for that. And I'm going to go through kind of some of the reasons why follow-up is different on Sqweee. I'm setting the mood first with this quote. Selling is something that we do for our clients, not to our clients. And I think I just wanted to plant that seed as we go through this whole follow-up training, because I know that there are some very warm-hearted consultants who worry that they are bothering people when they follow up. And so I want to just set that in there as we go through, kind of remember that follow-up is truly servant selling. And so that's what we are really working to do when we're following up from a Sqweee event. So again, if you're used to working on Facebook parties, you may feel a little bit more lost on follow-up than you would, say, working on a home party. We're going to talk about that. And I think that Facebook sort of gives the illusion that you have this captive audience, right? You kind of know where to find them. Whether they're not responsive or not is another question, but you know where to find them. And so that's where consultants start to feel a little bit lost on Sqweee. Because like a home party, your host guests are going to come into Sqweee, come into our virtual living room, as we call it, going to mingle with the guests for that live event. But after that live event, they're not really likely to return to your Sqweee event. And of course, if you've ended your event, they can't return to it. So when you only have that short period of time, it's a nice, engaged, interactive time, but it's still a short period of time. So when you know that you're only going to have that limited time, it's really important to focus on connecting with guests before the event and also during it. So just like a home party, your host is actually one of the keys to preparing for follow-up. So I did a training on host coaching for you guys already. If you haven't had a chance to go back and watch that replay, definitely do that. So I'm not going to go too much into that, but I do think it's important to touch on it here because host coaching actually comes into play with follow-up. It is an important element of it. So you want to set expectations with your host that your host is going to be your partner in follow-up, that you may need your host's help getting connected with guests who haven't provided contact information. Let them know that in advance so they're kind of prepared for that. I think it's also really helpful to prepare guests with the expectation that many orders are going to come in through follow-up. So, they may think, okay, my live event is done and we did the thing and now it's over and, oh, I only have a couple orders and what a bummer. But the truth is that the party's not really done just because the live event is over. You still have work to come afterwards and your host still has a little bit to do as well. So if you plant that seed in the initial conversation that you're having with your host, you're going to have an active partner with you in follow-up. So letting him know, hey, most orders come in afterwards, or at least many of them do. So you're going to want to keep a list of everyone who says yes to your invite. So you have a really easy list to follow when you're doing these follow-up messages. And the day after the event, you're going to want to spend a little bit of time on follow-up. So make sure that you have just a window of time set aside for that. That's going to help make sure that things get done when you need them to get done. You can also consider doing some incentives. I think it was Krista on the Safe Haven Sqweee party page recently shared sort of a tic-tac-toe bingo kind of board. That can be helpful, including a square on there that's dedicated to sending follow-up messages or obtaining outside orders, which really is kind of one and the same, right? Those outside orders usually come from follow-up. And of course, getting bookings from friends, because That's another thing that we want to work on. So you can have that in your incentive as well. All of this boils down to what I have here on the right, which is just making sure that your host has realistic expectations. So they're not expecting that, you know, the live event is done and, you know, I'm washing my hands, it is what it is, but that they actually can still contribute and benefit from follow-up. So staying one step ahead. I think this is actually the key to follow up on Sqweee, is to be working on follow-up before the event actually happens. So if you wait until the event is over and then you're thinking, oh, wait a minute, how do I get in touch with these people? You're thinking about it a bit too late and you have a harder job in front of you. So we do this actually throughout a Sqweee event and really throughout being a great consultant on any platform. But, you know, for example, we work on increasing our guest count before the invites have even come out, right? We do that with host coaching. We do that with the wording that we provide. Those are all designed to help increase guest count. We do the same thing with follow-up. So we're working on follow-up before anything has happened really in the event. We're working on the event description with the goal of follow-up in mind and the RSVP survey strategically. So I'll show you what I mean by that. We're going to take a look now at using those tools to connect with customers. Catchy descriptions and bios. This is really that first impression that, you know, the guests are going to have. They've already said yes, hopefully through that invite message, but now they're getting a feel for the event and they're getting a feel for you. So you want to make sure that you are making that description and your bios personable so that they can relate to you immediately. And yes, that definitely ties into follow-up. The more that you are building up that relationship, the more that you are seeming relatable, the more that you seem approachable, those are all things that contribute to how well your follow-up will go. So making it really personable so they can relate to you immediately. Making use of the linking tool. So that is something that you can use. I've shown you an example here. I've written my fake bio because I'm not a Norwex consultant, but I have written a little bio about myself. And you can see I used linking. So in the bottom there, I have linking to my Facebook Messenger inbox. So if they choose to, and not everybody will, but if they choose to, they can actually reach out to me right away. That is one point I'm just going to toss out there. When you're working on follow-up for Sqweee, you're probably working on it from lots of different angles. There's really no one-size-fits-all approach because each of your guests may like to communicate in a different way. Each of them may have different comfort levels in terms of speaking to someone that they don't know very well. So, you know, we give this opportunity for them to reach out. If they don't take it, it's okay because we're going to cover, you know, our bases in other areas too. But this is how you do it if you want to do a linking to your Facebook Messenger. It is, you know, always having that HTTPS in there. It's m.me and then your username. So if you go to my Facebook profile on Facebook and you go to the URL at the top, you're going to see at the end, mine says /Schoeggl. Whatever's that slash at the end, that's what you're going to put in where I had your username. So that's something you can do, just kind of help build a bridge there. RCP surveys are actually my favorite way to work on follow-up. And again, this is all happening beforehand, so you are planning ahead quite a bit for this. I really love conversational RCP surveys. Why? Because I'm asking people to give information about themselves. And so I think it's very helpful to share a little bit with them, you know, to share a little bit of your personality, even to share a little bit of information about yourself if you want to. But you can see here, I have an example where I'm actually putting the host's name in there. I'm putting the day of the event. So, you know, those are things that you'll have to go in and update that every single time you're doing a new event if you want to do it this way. Not required to do it this style, but this can help give that personal touch that actually helps contribute to how many people are responding and how comfortable they are giving you their contact information when they get to that part of the RCP survey. So our goal here with the survey, of course, is to learn about our customers' needs, because not only is that going to help us boost sales, right? If we're speaking to the products that they want to buy, we're going to be able to boost those sales, but for follow-up purposes, because we're establishing trust. The more that they are feeling like we're really invested in what they care about, the more they're going to build that relationship, and follow-up becomes so much easier. So what I'm showing on the right here is a purposeful, value-driven reason for guests to provide contact information. So in this scenario, I'm showing tips for navigating Sqweee. So they might be new to Sqweee, and when they're given the opportunity to, oh, okay, maybe, oh, I'm sorry, that is not what I'm showing. Maybe I should look what I'm showing. I'm showing an on-time reminder on this one. My next slide, I'll talk about Sqweee. So in this one, I'm talking about on-time reminders. And they're able to, you know, you can see the options of, I'm not giving them like, you know, no, I might not make it on time. I'm not actually putting this question in for accurate data. I don't really care if they can't make it on time to hear about that. What this question here is about setting expectations. So the expectation is that they're going to come on time. And so these are their three options. They can't come on time, that'll happen, but I don't want to like necessarily give people permission for that from the start. So this is setting an expectation that the options I'm giving are really strategic on that. So that is on-time reminder. And of course, that's a value-driven reason. They now don't have to worry about setting an alarm if they didn't want to, because you're going to take care of reminding them. So it's serving their needs. Okay. Now I can talk about what I was getting into there. Another purposeful reason for connecting them might be learning about Sqweee. So this is another great question that you can include. Is this your first time partying on Sqweee? And so here I have, you know, yes, can you text me with a few tips? This, I recommend the 5 facts to know about Sqweee. I know that has been shared. We can make sure that you get that if you don't have that. But that is allowing you to set expectations among your guests for just how the website works, what they're going to do when they are on there. So that helps them orient very quickly when they arrive. So that means they're listening to you and focusing on the products faster. The other thing it's doing, if they are reaching out to you or giving you permission to text them about tips of Sqweee, you're now establishing that open channel. And that's really what all of these purposeful connections are about. A value-based reason that makes them more motivated to do it for establishing that channel. So if they have questions about Sqweee in advance, or even during it, let's say during it, they're so lost they can't even figure out how to find a private message, right? They still have that open channel with you to ask questions. And then you have that open channel for follow-up. So that's what we're really, again, that's our goal, to make sure that after the event, we know where to find everyone. Offering recommendations is obviously a very purposeful, value-driven approach as well, for giving people a reason that they may want to provide their contact information. So value and time savings for the guest, because if they're getting those recommendations, they're, you know, not having to browse the website for quite as long. They're not getting lost there. So definitely gives them something that they can feel good about in terms of giving their contact details. Okay. So I do get questions about, you know, what is the most effective way to connect? And so what I'm showing you here, I like to do text. That is what's in the Norwex standard RCP survey that's given as a launching point for you is based on text. I think that it works well because text is honestly often noticed more. There's not as many notifications, right, as we do get from Facebook Messenger. So some people don't even have Facebook Messenger. You know, if they do, you're often going into their message request folder. So it's not as visible as a text. So that's why I choose and why we have the Norwex survey set up where we're focusing on text. Keeping a list of those who don't provide contact details in advance can be very helpful during the party. So, you know, hopefully, as I've given you some tips on using, you know, the type of questions you can ask and how to use the RCP survey to build those follow-up channels, hopefully you have most of the people doing that, but not everybody will. So if you just during the event are able to just glance over at this quick list that you have of those who didn't provide contact details in advance, you're going to know who to kind of sort of intentionally focus on to make sure that you're making a connection, that you're getting them to a place where you're going to be able to speak to them afterwards. You can also, this is something that you can talk to your host about, for those that don't provide contact info at all, like before or during, right? You can ask your host, you know, would you be comfortable sending a 3-way message to help us get connected? Or you can leave the follow-up to the host. But I like to try to be involved as much as possible. One, because it's actually making it easier for my hosts. They don't have as much work to do if I'm there on deck to answer questions, right? Okay. going pretty quick through this, but I would definitely will answer questions after we're done here. Creating a sales funnel. I don't know if that's a new term for a lot of you, but the idea is that you are funneling people into your, I called it here, your communication hub, the place where you most commonly communicate to your network. And again, we use value to drive guests there. We want to provide things that benefit them. So when you're considering what your unique sales funnel will be, you may already know, but if you don't, here's a couple things to consider. Your funnel should be wherever you are most consistent in reaching out to your customers. So if you love the idea of an email marketing list, but you don't necessarily have all your ducks in a row, or that's just not something that you spend time on frequently, it may not be the best one for you. If you are constantly on Facebook and you are very consistent and prolific with your posting, that's probably the best one for you. So you want it's going to be individual. That's why I said it's your unique sales funnel, because not everyone will have the same sales funnel. But you do want to consider stability. So Facebook VIP group is great. Probably wouldn't make it your only thing. You might want to start them there and continue to funnel. So funnel them from there to your email marketing list, funnel them there to a texting campaign or something like that you have. Because you want to make sure that wherever you have your customers, it's resilient to changes in social media. So if you only have your customers in Facebook and Facebook makes it difficult to reach them for A, B, C, D, or all the different reasons, you are putting your network at risk. So you want to make sure that you have stability in your sales funnel. And email marketing really is very resilient. It is, I'm always surprised by this, but even still, it is showing in the data that it is having the best response rate, based on other types of marketing like Facebook ads and things like that.
And Laura, as you know, you've been in the industry a long time too, the phone.
Yes, yes,
This
the phone.
talk in it, whether it's this or this. People are afraid of the big old phone, but I'll tell you what, just like email marketing is true, tested, and the longevity is there and proven, the phone is the way to connect. You hear the inclination in the voice, and that's really where you take that relationship building from an online, whether it's through Sqweee in a virtual party or a VIP group on Facebook. The phone is that first step in creating that real relationship, simply because once you can talk to someone and have the conversation, it just directs that into the sales funnel in such a unique and different way. It really is relationship building. So I would say phone.
I absolutely agree on it. And I would recommend everyone I hate the phone. I'm just going to say it. I hate the phone, and I still use it in my business. Because that voice is so important for creating a relationship that feels real, and kind of putting a person behind everything that you're doing. It makes you seem real, as you are. So methods for funneling that you can do in Sqweee. We kind of talked about it a little bit. So linking in the event description, you can link to a sign-up page for your email marketing list directly from your event description. You could link to your Facebook VIP group or whatever you need to do, your community support, whatever sales funnel you have. You can link it from there. You can link it from your consultant bio. We can also do it during an event. So you can create a product, and this is part of the Norwex timeline. There's a product that gives you an opportunity to fill in your link for your Facebook VIP group, or you can make it, whatever you need there, but you can include that as a product so that if people didn't do it in advance, you're layering, you're giving those opportunities, you're covering your bases. Private message, this is kind of relating to what Sherry's saying on the phone, is, we have all these strategies through Sqweee, but you can't forget that these strategies that we have, these tools that we have in Sqweee for linking and things like that, they're all designed to give you an opportunity to create a relationship. It's not like the end all, it's the means to create an end. And so, the end is not, it's not really the end, but like private messaging is a part of that continuum. So you may have gotten into a private message based on having a link that sent them to your Facebook VIP group, and now you're in a VIP message, private message, where you might offer them to join the texting campaign or things like that. So you can continue to funnel even through private message. And then again, through your host, they can always be sharing things like your community group or whatever as well. Long-term relationships. This kind of goes back to what I started out with, which is a little bit of the mindset of follow-up. And I'm just going to get personal and admit that follow-up has not been my favorite part of the business historically. It was something that I tended to approach. I'm very much like onto the next thing, next thing, next thing. And so follow-up kind of felt like this duty. And so I had to have a mindset shift and realize that it is truly a privilege to even have the opportunity to follow up with someone, that someone kind of came into your net, that they're now here and you have the opportunity to create a loyal customer out of that. That is a privilege. And so I think that sometimes when we approach it with that mindset of it's a privilege to be able to serve that person, to be able to meet their needs, it can really help us be invested in the process and not just go through the motions like we would if we see it as a duty. So a couple ways that you can do this, investing in the relationship. Be open to sending friend requests after a Sqweee event. Your host, you're probably connected with your host on Facebook. So if you're connected to them, you can generally see friends from there. So if you've had conversations with someone, you're not a stranger, be open to sending that friend request if you're interested in developing that relationship. And then look for opportunities to continue to get to know the guests. So, commenting on their posts as they come across your feed or things like that. The idea just being follow-up doesn't end when your party closes and from there, the friendship doesn't end. You're continuing to build that relationship. Okay. Investing in your business. This is kind of tying back to that as well. There have been times where I have definitely not done all the follow-up that I could. And when you do that, you are absolutely leaving business on the table and you're wasting some of the efforts that you've already put in. So you want to retain that effort, make the effort that you have put in worth it by following up afterwards. So if you're kind of tempted, if you're still having that like, oh, it's kind of pushy, if they wanted to buy, they would have bought, definitely let go of that because you are not even giving yourself credit for the work you've done. Really not doing the best for your host and definitely not doing the best for the customer. They can benefit from you continuing to reach out. I encourage everyone to follow up even with those who didn't attend or didn't purchase and offer value to them. So not necessarily about ordering, but take that opportunity to, take that kind of warm lead and welcome them into your network. So sometimes it could be like a free printable. You could make up a spring cleaning checklist, right? And say, hey, I'm so sorry that we didn't see you at Sherry's party. I missed the opportunity to get to know you. I would still love for you to benefit. And would you like to get a copy of my spring cleaning checklist? Something like that. So that's a way that you can kind of continue to expand your network, even if you didn't have them present at your event. All right, so opportunities to reach out. We talk about when, right? When should we be doing this reach out? When should we be doing the follow-up? The first one is at the time of RSVP. I like to do that immediately after they've submitted the RSVP. So they've given you your text information. They may have given it for that on-time reminder. But you actually want to take the opportunity to just reach out pretty much immediately as soon as you've spotted it, as soon as you have your opportunity. Because that is going to give you the opportunity to get into those conversations that build relationships in advance. So, thanks so much for your RSVP. Really excited to see you at Sherry's party. I'd love to tailor this to things that you're interested in. Really quickly, what's your least favorite cleaning task? Something like that, okay? And then you've got a quick conversation that you can get into. Reaching out during the hosting post is a great time to reach out and start talking about inviting them to host with you. Definitely contacting after the event. And we kind of just talked about that, sending a thank you, not just thank you for your order, but thank you for coming, thank you for showing interest, that kind of thing. So touching base with everyone after the event. Anytime there's an order update, that's a great excuse to continue to get back in touch and follow up. And then touching base afterwards, 2 months later, something like that, where you have a window, just how's everything going in your household now? Are you finding that these products are helpful for you? Are you needing anything more? I love to reach out when new products of interest are released. So this is something that we'll talk about when we get a little bit into what's coming up on Sqweee. But if you have a product release that is very similar to one that people starred, right, in a continuation of the line, that is a great reason to ring. Now you know, like, hey, just wanted to let you know, I know that you loved this product at Sherry's party. We have a brand new one. It's amazing. Would you like more information? So that's a great follow-up tool. And then, of course, if you are ever hosting a customer event, you want to continue reaching out and inviting them, bringing them back into the network, because going back to the idea of not wasting the work you've put in, if you're invested in follow-up, even if you do exemplary follow-up from this event, if it stops after their order arrives, you're still letting that relationship go. So you need to continue investing in it at regular periodic intervals. Okay. All of this has hopefully helped you with some tips for preparing for follow-up and knowing when to do it. Of course, we always want to minimize it. You know, I think follow-up as a consultant is going to happen no matter whether they've placed a sale or not, but we want to try to minimize the amount of follow-up that's done specifically for sales so that we can be talking about other things, hosting, joining, things like that. So these are a couple quick tips just for boosting the day of success rate on sales. First of all is, of course, creating a little bit of urgency. So life happens, people get distracted. They may be genuinely interested in Norwex products, but they just kind of let life carry them away, and then they forget to order. So we want to have that urgency. So you can consider incentivizing night of purchases. This can be low cost. It could be like something that you mail to them, like a small sample. It could be no cost, like that spring cleaning, I can't say it, spring cleaning printable that I just mentioned. That could be a no cost thing, or it's just a digital file, right? Or it can be entries into a prize drawing. So you're not necessarily incentivizing every single little thing with little different prizes, but you have one prize drawing and lots of different ways that they can earn entries into that, right? So purchasing the night of might get them additional prize entries. Either way, you want to just make sure that you have a very clear deadline, whether that's midnight or by the next morning or whatever you want to do. I typically go with midnight. Okay, encouraging social shopping. This is a concept that I think is, it takes a little bit of getting used to. There's sort of a fine line here. You want to leave room in your event for guests to chat. And I think sometimes as a consultant, we really feel like we need to go boom, 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 because we're so afraid that people will get bored or wander away that we're really kicking through posts as quickly as we can. And I encourage you to just leave a little bit of room to breathe. Ask your guests when they are ready to move on. You want to give yourself room to provide leading questions that are going to ensure that they're actually interacting with the products. Have you starred any items yet? What's your favorite product on this post? Do you have any questions about products on this post? These things like that, they may say no and then you move on quickly. That may be the pace of that group. But if there is room to have social shopping, you want to leave room for that chatter. And then I put at the bottom here, partnering with your host. This is something you could talk about maybe the morning of the event of, hey, I'm going to ask you to help me create conversations. So after a post, I might leave, a minute for us to kind of chatter. Could you maybe dive into that group chat and ask someone specifically about a product, or maybe mention how you think it might work for their family? So partnering with your host to get that conversation going. I like to think of this as like the shopping mall perspective, right? Like it's so much more fun to go to a shopping mall with friends and, hey, what do you think of this? Do you think it would look good on me? That's what we're trying to create in Sqweee when we're leaving room for social shopping.
Hey everybody, don't forget we have that great host coaching training as well. And up next, you're going to want to check out the question and answer segment of this training that includes a tip from a super user on Sqweee. Thanks so much. See you in the next training.